Go ahead, Becky.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Becky Flowers, and I'm asking for an exception that my grant and aid requests be accepted and reviewed as they were submitted late. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have Krista Flynn on for the open mic?
I'm here.
Hi, Krista.
Hi. I just wanted to submit an idea to help get some local businesses some more business during COVID. It was something I saw from my hometown in Barrie. There's a parking ticket initiative. So if you have a regular parking ticket, what they offer is that you can go to a local restaurant in your city, and by presenting a receipt of equal or greater value to your parking ticket, you can have that parking ticket annulled.
Good. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Is there anybody else that had registered or popped up? No. Okay. Item 4, adoption of the agenda. Councillor Blatz.
You can go first. Yeah. Okay. I would like to add Project Forest to our regular council agenda.
Okay, so that would be 16B. Go ahead.
We need to remove the delegation for Adrian Jolie. He was able to come to agreement with finance prior to the meeting.
So 9B will be taken out. Anything else? We're ready for the question. Those in favor as amended? Oh, call for the vote.
Councillor Billingsley, yours is still showing offline.
Well, I'm in favor. That helps.
That's Councillor Lonsdale.
I have not yet. I haven't seen him pop up.
So you can add Councillor Billingsley. Carried unanimously. Item 5A, committee of the whole meeting minutes.
I would move that City Council approves the January 10, 2022 Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Councillor Billingsley is in favor. Perfect. Also carried unanimously. The regular council meeting minutes.
I move that the regular council meeting minutes, the City Council approve the January 10, 2022 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? And the special council meeting of January 17th.
I move that the city council approve the January 17, 2022 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Moved by Counselor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? I think you're online now, Counselor Billingsley.
Is it showing?
It was on the last vote.
But I can't.
Counselor Elliott, are you on yours?
I didn't get the vote yet. I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of privilege, maybe you could explain to the people sitting here why it's
Sure.
taking so long and what we're trying to do here.
With one of our programs with iCompass, we're able to vote through our devices, and then it keeps track of the minutes a little bit easier than Karen trying to type in or add who made the motion, who was in favor and who was against. So now it's all electronic. Item 7 in the consent agenda. Somebody make that motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as printed.
Any discussion? Anything you'd like to remove? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Thank you.
May I ask why that didn't come up on my screen?
Sorry, Councillor Nielsen, what was the question?
I've been getting all those motions on my screen previously. That one didn't come up.
That one didn't come up. Okay.
I'm eliminated. Okay, I'm done for the day. Oh, it's hidden behind. Problem solved. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, item A, public hearing. I declare the public hearing regarding the municipally controlled corporation to be open at 13:08. I'll ask the city manager to explain the purpose of the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The purpose of the public hearing today is to give Wetaskiwin ratepayers the opportunity to speak to council regarding their thoughts on the creation of the MCC prior to council's discussion on this topic at the regular council meeting on February 14th, 2022.
Has notice of this hearing been provided in accordance with the applicable legislation and the bylaws of the city of Wetaskiwin?
It has notifications have satisfied the requirements of the MGA, the BCA, and city bylaws. There have been 6 legal notices when only 2 were required. There were no less than 12 notices through Facebook and other social media platforms like Twitter. In addition to the legal notices, in each paper, there were 4 additional ads placed. There were 2 news flashes on the city website and 2 notices through the utility bills.
I'll now request that the city manager provide their report regarding this matter.
Thank you. So I'm not going to go through all of the information that was previously presented to council at previous meetings, but based on the communications that we have received to date, there appears to be some confusion between the MCC and the project that needs to be completed. So I'll remind everyone that the wastewater treatment plant needs to be upgraded. We have no choice on this. How we go about that upgrade appears to be part of the concern for the public aside from the utility rates going up. To address the first part, there are 2 options for how this project can be completed. The first option is to try and do the project ourselves in-house. This would require permission from the province for the city to go beyond its borrowing limit. This not only puts the city at risk if there is an emergency that arises, but considering the recent changes to the province, with the province that the city no longer has preferred borrowing rates, that means that the project costs would certainly go up. And for those that don't know, municipalities must borrow through certain avenues, and those rates are not preferred anymore. The other option is to go with the P3 route, which is the one that was proposed by administration. To be clear, in each scenario, Aquaterra will be coming in to manage the utility operational function. This operational part is not expected to raise costs. This was previously noted in other council meetings. In fact, with the experience of Aquaterra, it is expected that over time, the utility rates may either go down or allow the municipality more money to put into reserves to save for future upgrades. Again, this project has been mandated by other orders of government, and that is why the rates are going up. There was a lot of confusion between the MCC making the rates go up in the project. So as previously discussed, the city has no control over that portion.
Have we received any written submissions? And if so, can you read them into record, please?
We've received 13 submissions. The reports were circulated to council on Friday after the closing of the submission deadline. One person specifically asked that I read into the record their submission, and I will do that now. It was addressed to mayor and council of the city of Wetaskiwin on January 24th regarding the January 24th public hearing, collateral damage to the city of Wetaskiwin and its ratepayers. We listened fully to the presentation Graham Capital made to city council on December 13th, 2021. As previously stated in an email to the mayor and all councillors, this was a real slick presentation by Graham Capital. Example, ratepayers will not have to pay for this project. In the notice of proposed municipally controlled corporation for the city of Wetaskiwin Water and Wastewater Services, it states in part, by establishing the proposed wastewater treatment facility as a municipally controlled corporation, the city partners with Graham Capital to ensure project financing can be secured without taking the city beyond its debt limit. Nowhere in the resolution does the resolution make reference to Graham Capital's proposal. The resolution is strictly to establish the MCC. As Graham's proposal is not mentioned, we will not support unknown future proposals at this time. In the notice of proposal, this is suspected to cost between 40 million and 53 million, depending on the option selected. And it further states, without taking the city beyond its debt limit. In the December 13th presentation, numerous comments were made by councillors regarding the $22 million debt that the city already is carrying. Pet projects is why the debt got to 22 million, and also comments were made on needs or wants and nice to haves. The city now finds itself limited to finance the wastewater treatment facility project debt through conventional avenues open to the city. Graham's proposal was to create an MCC to take this project off city books, and the reasoning was ratepayers will not have to pay for this project. What was missed in this suggestion are the property owners, users of these utilities, and and they are one in the same person. As said earlier, a real slick presentation. In our opinion, the MCC should not be created because, number one, debt limits are established so that towns, cities, and municipalities are to live within their financial means. And number two, by leaving it under city ownership, Public Works and their personnel and equipment are there to support any emergencies that in the utilities facilities. Even though this resolution is not regarding construction of the facility, we will make one comment on where this is heading, one step at a time. If the YouTube posting of the regular council meeting of December 13th, 2021 at 3:14.49, Graham presented to council a confidential prepared chart to support their proposal in which they state timing and approach to rate adjustments, which states in part, suggestion to a smooth transition. And in 2022, consider returning to the utility rates of the 2020 levels, potentially adjust adjusted for inflation to reduce rate shock following construction completion. The city, in their postings, have said that water and wastewater fees for the base rate would be, for one scenario, $191.06 per month, post-construction phase. Each of you know what your current utility rates are for water and wastewater, and in our case, this proposed increase is truly rate shock. We started this letter off by saying collateral damage. And even though this resolution is only to create the MCC, it doesn't take a rocket scientist or brain surgeon. That step by step, we will end up with a $40 to $53 million project. If we ultimately end up there, the city of Wetaskiwin, business owners and service providers and ratepayers and everybody dealing with Wetaskiwin, within Wetaskiwin, will be collateral damage, as these are the people that will be paying for the facility as proposed. This includes a huge financial burden and hardship on seniors, single parents, single families, and it will have a huge irreversible negative impacts on the local economy. Housing prices, property values will extremely deteriorate because no one will move here. You can't rescind the bylaw once council passes it and once the contracts are authorized. We know something has to be done, but it behooves council to stay with cities' credit debt limits to find a solution, submitted by Chris and Glennis Hart. There were also the other submissions. No one had specifically asked that theirs be read in, but I do have several bullet points that that capture the gist of each of the presentation or the submissions that were received. The city cannot afford, nor can the ratepayers cannot afford this. There was talk of increasing rates by 400%. Concerns around whether or not the city sole sourced this work. There were concerns with a lack of advertising and not being transparent to the public about the need for a new plant and the public hearing. They wanted to know if the city had investigated managing this project themselves. There were questions as to whether or not we have asked for grant money, or are we able to delay this project to save for it? Why isn't the capital levy being used for this work? There were concerns about the water treatment plant and why we did not share any information about that facility. There were concerns that not all the information was available to them to review ahead of the meeting. There were concerns with the project being off the books and what that means. People were concerned about who owns the MCC. Concerns about the comment that while rates will increase, we noted that the overall financial burden would be lowered. There was confusion around that statement. There was confusion about why the citizens of Wetaskiwin needed to pay for this work. There were concerns over why we did not start saving for this project sooner. Questions about why taxes are not helping to offset the costs. A question, has the city reviewed other options, including refusing to do this work? How will we control the costs and get out of this if things change down the road? And has the city decision been made already? And is this public hearing just for show?
Thank you. Any persons wishing to be heard? And if so, can you just come up to the desk here and provide your name and address for the record?
Thank you, Council. My name is Steve Bernardos. Some of you know me. I did run for City Council position this year. Just to kind of get this off the list here, are you actually answering questions at this meeting, or are we just going to ask them and you're going to answer them in a future date, just so I know how I can answer these questions?
Just go through your presentation. If one member of council has a question or would like to answer anything from your presentation. They can do
Perfect.
so.
Okay, so first question I got, how long has the entire MCC and 3P planning been in front of council? To my knowledge, it's been over 6 months. I might be wrong. If so, please correct me on any of these points. Shouldn't have this been disclosed at the time of election that happened 3 months ago? Should there not have been a plebiscite to determine whether our citizens wanted a for-profit water system that is an essential service? Should that have not been up to the citizens of Wetaskiwin if they wanted to have that sort of system in place? If so, why did council hide it for 3 months before they brought it forth? They knew about it 3 months prior to the election and chose not to let the people of Wetaskiwin speak on it. How long has the city known about needed upgrades to this wastewater treatment center? To my knowledge, it's been over 10 years. As of 2012, I do believe, they were informed by Environment Canada that their affluent discharge no longer reaches or meets environmental standards. So in the 10 years that city council has known about this, to my knowledge, judging by their financial statements, they've put $6 million into reserves. That's restricted reserves for this kind of project. Not nearly enough, in my concern. What else do we have here? What other options do we have on the table that have been confirmed and are available for the city other than the MCC? It's quite apparent that nobody has contacted the Municipal Affairs Department to see if we can, at this point in time, raise our debt limit. So we have this project to be completed in 11 months, $53 million project to be completed in 11 months. Otherwise, the city starts facing $4 million every up to $4 million for a fine every time they discharge their affluent. So you're cutting it pretty short to putting yourself pretty much in handcuffs. What else do we have here? We have all financial options been explored? Through which avenues did the city apply for grant funding? Was it through infrastructure grants? Was it through environmental grants? Now, considering that this imposed regulation now has been put upon the city of Wetaskiwin by Environment Canada, one would think that some of the environmental grants available by the federal government should have been applied for. I know that the province has already put the $13 million in, so to ask them for more financing would be probably a little bit unfair. I brought this forth while I was running. I brought this forth for the last 4 years. I brought it forth to probably almost every member in this room. The city has been misappropriating almost $2 million a year from their environmental services account and putting it into general revenue. I approached, like I said, pretty much everyone in this room with maybe the exception of Bill here and Miss Aberle. 4 years, I was treated like a leper. Nobody did anything in this room. That's to a total of over $7 million that could have been put away just in the last 4 years that the city council chose to do nothing about. I would actually like an answer to that question. How is it that an individual comes to you with your misappropriation of monies and you do nothing about it at all whatsoever? Now that I've been informed that Mr. Alan Harris, your corporate services manager, and by the way, I'd like to thank him for actually picking up the phone and listening when somebody talks to him and actually performing actions when somebody talks to him. I've been informed that it is brought before city council that this misappropriation of money has been confirmed by your own financial services department. And since it has been, and you will no longer be allowed to take this money out of the account and put it into general revenue, have you guys told everybody in the city of Wetaskiwin that unless you change the way you spend, your property taxes are going by 8% to 10% in the wrong direction? We can be looking forward to about an 8% increase in our property taxes next year. We also have what is the service contract structure between Aquaterra and the city of Wetaskiwin. So currently, the city of Wetaskiwin pays $1.1 million in wages to their environmental services department. They also cover contracted services of $746,000, plus the material and supplies of goods of $956,000. So I can assume that that is part and parcel of construction and upgrades to infrastructure projects. So that comes to a total of just about $2.8 million. With the 53% increase in rates that you are looking at, that'll bring our net revenue from our water systems up to $12 million. So if the contract stays the same as what the city pays now, that will equal to over $9 million in revenue. Where does that $9 million go? How much of it is debt servicing? How much is it for third-party providers? And will that stay consistent through the entirety of your contract? How does this corporate structure? In some of your postings, it said this corporation will be structured like a nonprofit. And then later in the same post, it says how all economic benefits will go back to the citizens of Wetaskiwin. Now, the primary focus, I believe, of a nonprofit is exactly that, does not make profit. So if it's supposed to not make profit, where and how does extra revenue get dispersed into the community? If extra revenue is there, that means you're overcharging for the service provided. Lots of people in this room have stated that it is a non-profit entity. We do not provide the service for money, and that is quite apparently not true. What are expected operational costs for Peace Hills Utilities? From what I'm led to understand is the MCC will be turned into, or its corporate name will be Peace Hills Utilities. So after transferring all of the billing and all the other costs that will go along with starting an MCC, what are the costs of Peace Hills Utilities? How much is going to be taken away from the accounting department here at City Hall? How many jobs are going to be lost when you pretty much eliminate an entire section of the city's workforce? Will we see pay decreases in members of administration because their duties will no longer entail these projects? What are the franchise rates going to be? So I've looked at Aquaterra's operations that they have in Grand Prairie, Sexsmith, I think it's Wembley and Grand Prairie County. Their bills now have franchise fees. So just like any other bill that we receive from natural gas or power, they all contain a franchise fee that now goes to the city of which they operate in. So if you look at any power bill you have, you'll see that franchise fee goes up and up and up. The city of Wetaskiwin already charges some of the highest franchise fees on those bills. Is the structure of this Aquaterra operation going to be the same or look exactly like what they do in Grand Prairie? And if so, why are we paying a franchise fee for infrastructure that the citizens of Wetaskiwin have already paid for? So just kind of in closing, it seems to me like this MCC is a way for City Council to absolve itself of the situation they put us in. And I'm just going to do a little summary here. You guys have known for 10 years that this operation is needed to be upgraded, yet put almost nil for money in the reserves. You've diverted funds to legacy projects, to pet projects, the needs and the wants. You prefer the needs to be dismissed and the wants to be carried through with. I've brought forth 4 years ago, like I said, the misappropriation of funds. Nobody in the city council or city hall or anything could be bothered to do anything about it. That's the way this city operates, is if you bring forth, your only reason that they can see you bringing forth information is to be damning to them and not to help your community. We've got, how much due diligence has the city done? From where I sit, not nearly enough. Like I said, they haven't even given the option of raising our debt ceiling. We've lost $1.5 million for this revenue because nobody in this room bothered to look at their utility bills for a year when they were not charging the sewer charge that they were supposed to put on our bills. So there's another $1.5 million that's gone by the wayside. We've got the EPCOR. So when the city contracted this position to EPCOR, I think it was 6 or 8 years ago, the city got out of the contract because EPCOR notified city council and city administration of what kind of upgrades it would take and what kind of charges that our new bills would be taking on. And the city didn't want to deal with it then, so they chose to exit the contract with EPCOR and continue on. So what else do we have? We got pretty much turning an essential service into a for-profit revenue stream. If this system goes to the Aquatira platform, the way they operate their systems now, would mean the city has to transfer all of their assets to the corporation, and they will receive a 5% dividend in return. Now, when the city receives a 5% dividend, that is a not-for-profit organization. Now you're pretty much pulling the money out of our pockets, telling us, you know what, we need more than us. There's lots of people in this city that needed to pay their rent, to put food on their table, to put their kids through extracurricular activities and so on and so forth. Yet you're telling us here, give us the money and we'll do with it what we see fit. I don't think the citizens of Wetaskiwin need that. We have a what if portal. What if Wetaskiwin portal that you guys nice set up. I think what if Wetaskiwin had competent representation? To be frank, I am not in favor of this MCC. I think that the city of Wetaskiwin has put itself in a situation. I think the city of Wetaskiwin now needs to understand, and especially administration and council, the pain that they're going to cause their city council or their members. And city council should feel that pain. If we have to go to the debt ceiling or to our debt limit to achieve that, so that people in this room no longer spend money on frivolous items because they do not have the money. And the issue I also see with transferring over this operation to a privately held corporation is that this council or future councils will look at their balance sheet and see, well, we got $30 million worth of spending capital we can use. What do we want now? Not about what we need, but what do we want? It's been quite apparent to me that city council has chose to try to keep their jobs rather than do their jobs. It's almost like Wetaskiwin leadership doesn't understand the cause and effect of their decisions. If we sit here over the past 10 years and the dominant income in Wetaskiwin by your own mixed business study, the dominant income in Wetaskiwin is between $25,000 and $50,000 per household. And I don't know how you guys think that these households are going to be able to absorb this kind of increase without causing great hardship to the businesses and people of Wetaskiwin. We also look at the fact that we have 35.8%, I do believe, 35.8% of our population are renters. Now, if you have a socioeconomic issue that we do have in Wetaskiwin of, again, this low household income, 35% of our citizens are renters, which means landlords cannot raise their rent because city or people in this city cannot afford the rate increase. So in turn, that leaves the landlord to chew the cost. Now, some people are okay with that, but there's also more cause and effect that goes along with that. Because if I, as a landlord, am not able to make a decent return on my property, I am not going to put money back into my property. Now, one of Wetaskiwin's biggest issues with growth and a whole assortment of other issues is our mill rates are extremely high, extremely uncompetitive. Now, if our mill rates are extremely uncompetitive, people not upkeeping and putting money into their property is only going to lower assessed values. And if the city continually spends the way that it's chosen to spend, those mill rates will continually go up and up and up and make us continually more and more and more uncompetitive. Now, these are issues that I don't believe people in this room honestly either don't think about or don't care about. Now, those are hardships that's going to be put on the city of Wetaskiwin. So since everyone in this room ran on an election 3 months ago, chose not to be transparent, and all spoke about how accountability was part of their platform, I would like to know who in this room is going to stand up and take responsibility for the actions of the last 10 years. You've denied, you've shuffled, you've tried to weasel your way out of the issue that we are under now. So for me, an acceptable display of responsibility would be the resignation of our mayor and the resignation of Mr. Bill Elliott. Both of these individuals were in leadership and on council during the complete, for lack of better words, I don't even want to say it. I don't think there's an adjective that can say it, but it's incompetent. And Wetaskiwin cannot afford more incompetent leadership that we've had over the last 10 years. And this is just 10 years of a swimming pool, our main street, planting trees in a park, doing a park when a business, local businesses offered to do the park for them. They push all of these I want projects to the front of the line. And now the city of Wetaskiwin is going to end up in the obituaries page. You're going to open that Wetaskiwin Times and say death of Wetaskiwin, slow and steady by ignorance and incompetence. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Have you presented any of your questions to administration so that we can get you the answers? Perfect. Moving right along. Glen Rooker.
Thank you, Council. My name is Glen Rooker. Address is 3751 53 8th Street in the city of Wetaskiwin.
You just add it to that paper in front of you there for the register, please.
Just a couple of quick questions. From what I can see, the city has blindly gone ahead with the only alternative that they're looking at is saying a wastewater treatment facility. Have you looked at any other alternatives? Yes or no? My city of Edmonton trucks their wastewater to Beaver County. You can truck an awful lot of wastewater for $53 million, let alone the annual cost of maintaining this facility and paying for its upkeep. Now, it's been said that we dump our wastewater into Camrose's drinking water, and on the surface, that sounds terrible. But if you have a septic system, from your septic field, you can have your well intake 50 feet away. How many 50 feet do we have between our sewage lagoon outlet and Dried Meat Lake? And what would the parts per million be entering Dried Meat Lake? Anybody have that answer? Is there an alternative way to treat the effluent that's being released? By building this wastewater facility treatment, as Mr. Bernardo said, you're putting the city of Wetaskiwin into bankruptcy. And it's something we will never recover from. I'm just looking to wonder if you have any alternatives aside from being focused on a wastewater treatment facility, because that's not the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson online.
I see the name Edie Johnson. That's it. Yeah.
Mr. Johnson, you there?
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Larry Johnson. I live in Parkside. And Wayne Nielsen's on council. He's our neighbor. An excellent person in our community over here, but just I'm just shocked of what I've been hearing from Mr. Bernardo's. If most of that is true, it's a real slap in the face to the taxpayers of Wetaskiwin. I'm just shocked. I want to go through all his stuff. I'm hope that's being recorded and printed so that some of us who care can get a copy of that. But I wrote a letter. I had a bit of feedback from the city manager about the costs of this project. Didn't really answer too much of what I'm concerned about. But I just think, first of all, we need to get in touch with the government of Alberta to see what they will do to help our community if we're in this scenario where there's not enough money and the increase is going to be too much per household to carry this through. Because I know, we're retired. I mean, I realize I'm not the smartest knife in the drawer, but I've got 3 university degrees. I was a longtime realtor in this community. Our property values have declined. I can't get for my house what we built over here in Parkside, $400,000. I can't sell my house for what I built here. And so more debt by the community is going to actually erode our property values. So I think we need block letters in the paper about where taxpayers stand with the debt situation in Wetaskiwin, because I don't see how we can, as I mentioned in my letter, point number 4, we can't have an additional burden of $40 million or as high as 53 million. I mean, that's a 30% swing between 40 million and 53 million. That's over a 30% leeway. We can't have that in a community of 12,000. I'm just, I'm really just shocked listening to Mr. Bernardo's. If any of that is true, we got big problems. We need an investigation, maybe led by the government. And where's our MLA on this? I haven't heard a word from him about helping Wetaskiwin since he got elected. The former MLA we had at least got back to us on issues each and every time. This guy, I don't know what the heck he's doing out there. But anyway, my vote in the short period of time that I want to take with you folks is you have a trust relationship with the citizens. Do your job. Protect us. We can't have all of this stuff pushing down the throats of taxpayers. And if we need to cut staff, I'm hearing we've got 200 employees in this city. Is that true? Better not be. 1 out of every 60 people in this city is a employee. City councils and city hall is not meant to be the biggest employer in the community. So I'm just on the edge of being very upset. I apologize if my voice is just, I don't know. I feel a sense of impending doom for Wetaskiwin. And I'm praying that you folks will get together and do your jobs and help us. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Is there anybody else registered?
The debt is the annual one. In other words, whatever the
I requested if anyone virtual wanted to speak, they needed to include their first name and last name along with their address in the chat, and I have not received any yet.
Okay. Was there anybody else wishing to be heard? Joe? Keep your mask on, please, and we'll have you register up at the front.
Thank you very much for holding this up. Most of you know who I am and sat here as Mr. Bernardo said, I guess I'll have to take the blame for this, what's happening here, because I've been the longest sitting counselor here. You know, what really frustrates me is we're all to blame that's sitting here, but the citizens of Wetaskiwin are to blame too. They sit on their asses, don't do too much, and as soon as they hear their taxes going up, wow, let's load our guns and go shoot some counselors. We needed everybody. This city and this council is elected by the people. Now, a few things I like to know. When I was here and we were discussing this water treatment, many moons with Bill and my ex-counselor, Mr. Rooker there, the government changed the rules. And I'm a believer if the government changed the rules, let them pay for this. Do we have to? Do we have to do this? Are we building the Taj Mahal of mechanical system? Did we get together with all the other municipalities? Because we're not the only municipalities that have to do this. But to be honest, I was shocked when we were here, we were told between 30 and 35 million. When I read the paper the other day to go to 50, wow, we don't have that kind of money. Now, let's say it's 50 million. Is that a guarantee that there is no overruns? And if we're going into an agreement of 50 million, who pays for the overruns? Where's that coming? Because we all know, I'm a contractor. Some of you here are businessmen. 50 million, you can add 10, 15% on top of that, because that's what we do in business. We're for profit. We have to make money to survive. But I just like to say, you people were elected by the people. Represent them. I've always said that all along. And yes, I am to take blame for this because I'm the longest guy here and some of us been here. But the citizens have to wake up, get off your asses, get involved with our politics and our community, not just 7 or 8 people here. And the other thing that I have to say is this council votes on information that it's received. Whether it's right or wrong, that's the only way we can vote. We're not behind. We can't go behind administration's back to find out information without authorization. So we're only voting on information that we receive. Whether it's right or wrong, I have my own decisions on that. So please listen to the people. Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to be in your guys' shoes right now. Because you got a target on your back if you raise the tax. We can't afford this. Businesses are going under. Our inflation's going skyrocket. We have a nutcase running the country. But let's work together. We can get along. We can make this work. Do we need a Taj Mahal or what other options do we have? And if you're going to go ahead with this, be honest with the public. Tell them, is it going to go 5%, 2%? Give us some guarantees that you ain't going to get more than this. We all know we need this. It's not us that want to do it. It's the federal government. My belief is let them pay for it. Nobody's dying with our water or anything. So why do we need it? So, but thank you very much for your time. And I pray for you guys because you're going to go through hell of what's going to happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. Online, we have Craig Havildson.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. My request is for an open and public statement to be made about when council and city management was aware that the water treatment plant was failing and did need repairs. As Mr. Veridos has brought up, being transparent in times of an election, I agree this very much could have been something discussed as part of the ticket. So if if I could request that the city have a public statement to address when this was first discovered, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else wishing to be heard?
Yes,
Go ahead. Can you state your name and your address for the record, please?
it's Chris Lommers, Lommers, 5307 50th Avenue.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for letting me speak. Yes, I'm concerned about, well, number one is I didn't really hear about this till about 3 weeks ago when it came out in the newspaper. So, I thought EPCOR had done these upgrades quite a few years ago. And I like the way that City Council had handled, or what I thought had handled it, was they were paying EPCOR to do the upgrades, and then the city was taking control. And, to me, government is responsible, for some of these, for the necessities of life. We have a responsibility also to, downstream, Camrose, if it's affecting our water, we have a responsibility for that. I'm not sure that, everybody, in the last 20 years, we've become very conservative in doing, a lot of business type of oriented. The problem with businesses is that they're for profit. And the other thing is that you're losing your expertise if you lay off, your environmental staff. It's very important, for governments, when they have, a necessary product or service, that they keep control of it so that it doesn't become a for-profit type of thing. So down the line, it always becomes a problem. And the city of Edmonton's had a problem with their second line, where it was a P3 that was done to amalgamate the two lines together. Financing, to me, it seems like, if you have a third party in there, you're paying them money to do this, where the city of Wetaskiwin should be able to do this themselves, whether it's through the federal government or the provincial government. I mean, I know, dealing with Kenny is not a great thing. He's trying to, make it look good to the citizens of Alberta that he's not spending money and this type of stuff. But I mean, it's I know it's very hard, and I don't have all the details. I've been now that I've heard some of this other stuff, I'm going, oh, okay, there's other details that I have not even known about. And this is, I wish that this stuff was put out before, a long time before, so that we could take a look at this. And so that's all I have to say. And I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else? No. Anyone else wishing to be heard? You've already spoken. Thank you, Mr. Bernardos. That's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Bernardos. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Third and final, anyone else wishing to be heard? I'd like to thank everyone for their presentations at the hearing. Council will discuss and debate this matter at February 14th, 2022 regular council meeting. I declare this public hearing closed at 1:54. Item 9A, we have a Citizen of the Month delegation.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be presenting this on behalf of administration. We received the following nomination for Leah Niemi, and I'll read what we received. So Leah has taken initiative to share good news stories about Wetaskiwin by creating her own YouTube channel and going around the city interviewing people about different subjects and featuring a diverse array of places and spaces within the city. Leah has helped us all remember that it is our connection to this land and each other that creates and maintains a sense of community which is especially important as we all navigate this pandemic. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Looking for a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that City Council recognize Leah Niemi as Citizen of the Month for January 2022.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Leah, I'd like to thank you for your work and making sure that some of the good news stories get out as well. So thank you very much for you taking the time and taking that upon yourself. You want to do it up here or down there? Okay, I'll meet you down there.
Leah, do you want to share any wise words?
Smile. Just have one positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, there's.
We didn't vote on it, did we?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we did. No, we did.
Someone or Councillor Elliott already moved it. Did that get? Yep. And then I think the voting went through. Item 10, staff reports for information, the whistleblowing annual report.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Leah Latimer. I'm the HR manager, and I'm just going to present this report for you guys. Can you hear me okay?
You betcha.
Perfect. All right. So in December 1st of 2020, we had opened our whistleblowers program to all employees, members of the public, contractors, and anybody else with an invested interest in the city of Wetaskiwin. So this report is on a year in review of the reports that we've received through the whistleblowers program. This is a council policy and is provided for a few main reasons. To provide an avenue for reporting allegations of wrongdoing related to city employees, administration, council, and mayor. To provide protection for those reporting allegations of wrongdoing through the ability to do this through anonymity. And then to provide due process for respondents against which allegations can be leveled. So for the 2021 year in review, the city administration has received 8 whistleblowing complaints. Of those complaints, 3 of them did not fall in under the whistleblowers program. 2 of them were management practices that were handled internally through our performance management directive. And then 1 was related to an outsider program that was more of a bylaw concern that was forwarded to bylaw to be addressed. So in total of the 8, we had 1 that was related to misappropriation or misuse of funds, equipments, or other assets. 2 were related to management practices. 3 were complaints regarding violence, harassment, and bullying. 1 was a waste of city resources, and then another one was danger to employees or public health and safety. All were addressed within the 30-day timeline, and all have been closed to date. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. We'll have somebody make a motion and we can have some discussion questions if there's any.
I would move that council receives the report titled Whistleblowing Annual Report dated January 24, 2022 as information.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to Leah. Leah, typically, how much time did each of these investigations take to bring them to conclusion?
Great question. Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen. I don't have the exact data on hand, but I would estimate on average 2 weeks, but I know that 1 did take a full month to complete.
And then what is your process once you've declared your findings in terms of reporting back to the parties involved?
So once we report back to the parties involved, we just collect the information and ensure that we have an internal report on file, and then it remains on file. And then I guess the next step is communicating this through council, and which our intention was to do this through an annual report.
And is there any recourse for a whistleblower complaint what's the word? That didn't meet the expectations of the person filing the report? I don't know if you, so I write a whistleblowing complaint, you investigate it, you report back to me, it's completed, blah, blah, blah. And I say, I'm not happy with that. Is there a recourse for me to take it further?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, we always ask the individual if they have any questions or concerns after the final resolution has been provided. They can respond in that way, or they can also, again, provide another whistleblower's complaint and then put it up through the chain of command if they so choose. So let's say the complaint was about an employee, they didn't feel like it was properly addressed. Maybe the complaint now goes to the city manager or council. But again, because if it's related to a specific employee's conduct, we know that that's in the purview of the city manager and not council.
Great, thank you very much.
That wasn't a great example. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 13, council schedule, attendance, committees, and boards reports. Start with Councillor Billingsley. Anything you'd like to highlight?
Not necessarily highlight. I just wanted to let council know that I was named vice chair for the WALA board, so I will be involved a little more detailed with that as well going forward. And just wanted to say thank you to all the rest of council on all the hard work that's been put on through strategic planning. I think it's been very productive.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, if we're talking about being elected, I'm now the vice chair of Yellowhead Regional Library Board. And I'm starting to take classes that are being required by the Municipal Government Act. So my brain is going to be taxed for the next little while. Thank you.
No problem. Well, you guys are all getting appointed and elected to things, and I'm also the chair for Safe and Healthy Communities. I'm just kidding. Carry on. Go ahead, Councillor Blatz.
So at the beginning of December, I went to the Country Christmas event that was for the Wetaskiwin Health Foundation. It was really well done. And it was nice to kind of get together for Christmas back at the beginning of December. And then been meeting with the Diversity and Inclusivity Task Force. There's a lot of really good work being done, lots of really good discussions, trying to figure out where we want to go and in what direction we would like to go in for it, trying to talk more about community engagement and how we can get more visibility. And yeah, strategic planning has been incredible. It's been going really, really well, really good discussions about our direction as well. And I am looking forward to more of that. And as far as the library board meeting goes, it was good to finally be back and seeing what work is being done with the library board and talking about budget. Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a particular note is my involvement with the FCSS board. And what I found most interesting is the board is transitioning from sort of under the umbrella of the city to an independent board. The amount of work that needs to go into place to get policies and procedures and staff handbooks and all of that pulled together so that the organization can be a better, smoother operational organization meeting the needs of our community. I've found the discussions there really interesting and profound, and I'd like to acknowledge that the board that they have would appear at this point in time to be a really strong board, and I think there's going to be some really positive things come out of this transition for our community. Thank you.
Councillor Aberle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to second, third concur about the strat plan. It's been really amazing working with everybody on these ideas and debating and coming to consensus. I think it's been an excellent experience for me. What I would like to highlight is the chamber luncheon that was on December 10th. It was the Spirit of Giving luncheon, and it's really to look at the nonprofits between our communities of Leduc and Wetaskiwin. All the nonprofits had the ability, it was a minute to discuss what they do. It was a great lunch with really just seeing all the work that goes into this community from all those different groups coming in and businesses that support them. So I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Good. Just the one thing I'd like to highlight, myself, Sue, Ren, and Candace were all able to take part in a podcast with Doug Griffiths, which is now leading to myself and Chief Ermineskin will be presenting at a leadership camp in Jasper with Doug Griffiths and his 13 Ways team. So I'm pretty excited about that and that opportunity to share about the relationship building between Wetaskiwin and Maskwacis. And Chief Ermineskin, I think, will be speaking to his experience with the residential school that he also spoke to at the Alberta Municipalities Convention in November. So pretty exciting thing to be a part of. I will entertain a motion and then we will vote.
I move the council accepts this report as information.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Thank you. Item 15, need a motion to go on camera. Councillor Blatz.
Oh, sorry. I was waiting for it to pop up on the screen. There we go. I move that City Council proceeds with the meeting in an in-camera session to discuss matters which falls under Section 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, exceptions to disclose.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Oh, there it is. Carried. We are now in camera. Counselor Billingsley,
I move that we continue the meeting in public.
moved by Counselor Billingsley. Ready for the question? Maybe. Just no.
I'm in favor, but my internet's disconnected. Thank you.
Counselor Aberle, Counselor Nielsen.
Sure.
Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 16, new and unfinished business.
Good afternoon, Council. I am presenting this report. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities is holding its annual conference in Regina, Saskatchewan from June 2nd to 5th, 2022. Approval from Council is requested to permit members to attend. Information, so historically, 2 councillors and the mayor have attended the FCM conference when it is out of province. As per policy CO-002, council approval must be given for out of province travel. This year, there is a hybrid format. They are showing both virtual and in-person attendance. And that's all for my report.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before a motion is made?
Yep.
So how do you feel about going?
I was going to ask Sue about setting up meetings with the federal ministries to continue working on our wastewater project. I find value in going. I know that former mayors have done well in terms of lobbying efforts for the municipalities, for the municipality. I've been with a couple of members of council and the mayor going. I found value in that as well. I find value in the sessions. I went one year when we were trying to cut costs, where I was the only attendee and didn't find a great amount of value in not being able to develop as a team, as opposed to me going by myself and trying to shake pockets of federal ministers.
Okay.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a number of sessions and it's sometimes challenging for one person to make them all. The green municipal funds that we accessed came from our meeting with federal officials. Our charging station out there came from us visiting somebody when we were at FCM, and then they said they would come to Wetaskiwin and put in a charging station for free. Plus the networking, the fact that you, just like Councillor Blatz met these people from the forest, 2 billion trees. Those things are available to us. I don't think it's a waste of money. I really feel that the networking is really important, and plus they have sessions for the CAO as well, so they get to interact and learn what's current and upcoming in their line of work as well. So I found it very worthwhile over the years, and I would support your going.
Dr. Nielsen.
Thank you. I agree with everything that Bill said. I think there's real value, and I think there's really real value there, particularly for yourself, Tyler. If you're out to advocate for some federal federal dollars to solve some of the problems that we're discussing today. And while I think there can be great value to having other parties there, I'm not sure that now is the right time. I mean, we heard today ad nauseum that we need to be careful with our spending. We had a financial report given to us last meeting that says we've got some fiscal restraints we're going to have to wrestle with. And I can support Tyler being there for the very reason he spoke about, but I think we'd be wise not to send other attendees unless it's virtual.
Mr. Mayor, and that was going to be my suggestion, was that you attend in person, and if others wish to go, that they attend virtually.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I certainly
And
would.
Is there anybody that's interested in attending virtually?
Can we have 3 people go virtually? It says 2 out of province travel.
I don't think it's not out of province, out of province travel. So it would be no different than another session being held here.
Would the motion only need to speak of sending you because it's out of province?
Yep.
Whether 3, 4, or 6 councillors decide to do it virtually really does not need to be part of the motion.
Yep.
I would move that City Council approves Mayor Tyler Gandam to attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference in Regina, Saskatchewan from June 2 to 5, and to approve associated expenses.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Councillor Nielsen.
I'm wondering if you'd accept a friendly amendment to that. And perhaps it won't fit into the category of a friendly amendment, so I'll leave that to the chair, but I also think, given the conversation we've had today, it would be imperative, but it would be wise to indicate that one of the focuses of Tyler's participation is to try and address wastewater issues with other orders of government. Because you've indicated that would be hopefully.
That's going without saying.
I'm sorry?
That's going without saying. We'll be working with administration to try to set those meetings up.
No, but I think it's important that the public understand, I'm not trying to give direction to you so much as to support what you're saying. But I think it's a way for us to say to the public, we're hearing you. We are supporting this travel because you've got some focus attached to it to address specifically a community issue.
I don't think that changes the intent of the motion. I think it just is a little more specific on it. So as long as Councillor Elliott takes it as a friendly, then.
Thank you. Where would I put anything?
Yes, please. Councillor Elliott, could you please let me know how you would like that worded?
Okay.
I'll use my ventriloquist skills, and you'll hear it from the other side of the room.
And I'll defer to Tyler. No, I would tack on kind of after the date from June 2nd to 5th, 2022. With intent or with focus or with, I don't know what the right word is, with intent to meet with other orders of government to discuss wastewater treatment supports and to approve associated expenses. Maybe. Yeah, that'd be beautiful. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Mr. Mover?
Orders with an S on it, Karen.
Thank you.
Moved by Counselor Elliott, as amended by Counselor Nielsen. Any further discussion? Counselor Aberle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I would like to make an amendment that it be Mayor Tyler Gandam and one counselor to attend the federation.
That is no longer friendly. To the amendment.
Which one?
Pardon?
Which one?
The one that Counselor Aberle just, yep.
The unfriendly one,
The
because I'm
unfriendly.
here to be unfriendly. And can I go ahead and speak? Yeah,
Please, yep.
I'm not interested myself in going, so this isn't for me. I would like to attend virtually, but the reason I'm saying this is I do think that having further council support will improve with these discussions. Mayor Gandam has already said that he found it to be less, maybe not useful wasn't the right word, but less productive when he was there alone. Having at least two of us speaking to these levels, networking, doing those things that are important at this meeting, and then also to be bringing back more information, as Councillor Elliott spoke, is there will be several things to attend at the time, different people to meet and network with. I think it would be advantageous to us at this time to send two people to Regina. Thank you.
Any discussion to the amendment? Counselor Billingsley.
It kind of leads to my question on the first part of the motion. What's the cost to for the conference? Best guess as far as other expenses that would be occurred.
I don't know what lights would be. They've been so up and down lately, and it's not far enough. I would probably drive as opposed to fly. How far away is Regina?
It'll take you 7 hours,
So
7.5, 8 hours.
600K, 700K?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Fly there for $700.
Oh, yeah, you can easily supply there for $700.
Yeah.
It'd be cheaper to fly than drive.
Yeah, it would be. But then we've also got per diems, and then we also have the conference, and then meals, and.
Yeah. Depends if there was a second member of council going or a member of administration.
Yeah. So what was the cost of the conference?
Registration fee.
Say 15, not 50.
750. That was gonna be my guess, but it didn't sound right. 750 for registration. We're members of FCM. Councillor Blatz.
Do they have the cost of the online attendance, or is it still $750?
It will probably be the same. I know that Alberta municipalities, I think the registration fee was very similar to what the in-person was as well.
Okay. Okay.
That would be my guess. Just save travel, per diem, or travel expenses, hotel, food. To the amendment. Anything further? Or the,
That's a question. Amendments up. No, we're just,
the amendment?
It might not, because it's a brand new amendment. It wasn't a predetermined amendment. It might not pop up on everyone's screens.
didn't.
So it is on your screens in front of you.
Okay, perfect. No, it came up on iCompass as well. Yep. It just says amendment, Councillor Aberle.
No.
I don't think it actually says. Anyways, we know what the amendment is. Any further discussion? Ready for the question, those in favor? Defeated. Back to the motion on the floor. Does that answer your question then that you had prior to the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Anything further? Ready for the question, those in favor? Australia carried unanimously.
Oh, there we are.
Any other new and unfinished business? Councillor Blatz. Oh, right, I had 16B. I
Yep.
did make a note. Go ahead.
So I want to bring back to the table the Project Forest questions that came up during their presentation during Committee of the Whole. They asked two questions, which was, can they have consent to submit grants on our behalf? And which land we would like to use for it. And I want to have that discussion.
You have a motion?
I do have a motion. So obviously it'll be, for me, it's with the land location that I see fit, but I am definitely open to a friendly amendment with it. I move that City Council gives consent to Project Forest to use Peace Hills Park as a land location for the Wetaskiwin Healing Forest Project. And to submit applications on our behalf for grants to fund the cost.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion?
Where do we go to talk?
Councillor Elliott.
You get to talk without.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, I'm in favor of this motion, but part of it is the Indigenous component. So I'm wondering about consultation and meeting with our Indigenous neighbors. Do you have a plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I have so far reached out to Elder Ivy Rain in the naming of the project. I want to make sure that we're having proper consultation with the elders in what they would like to see as the name. Something that was really important to me for this whole project, and Project Forest was really on board for, was not telling our Indigenous neighbors what they need for the healing project, and to get feedback from them of what they want to see it and how they want to see it done. So I want to make sure we're doing this right. So I did send my email out over the weekend to Elder Ivy Rain to start getting that ball rolling on it. I haven't heard back yet, but I'm anticipating that pretty soon. And as well as Project Forest is really dedicated to bringing those different groups together. And they would really like to have sit down conversations with their neighboring communities, as well as our Indigenous members that live within Wetaskiwin, and just make sure they're getting as much feedback as possible to make sure this is done correctly.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Aberle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to Councillor Blatz. You know that I'm very much in favor of this project, so I'm not going to go forward with that. But when you were speaking with Project Forest on it, what were their discussions about other ways of bringing all members of our community into the project in general?
So that was kind of a huge thing for them in their organization as a whole, is that community engagement and community pride is one of their top priorities. So in the discussions, they were talking a lot about having barbecues here, how they want to bring together all members of the community and be able to have discussions with people that are here in their neighboring communities, make sure that there's that regional collaboration as well. But yeah, just making sure that we're building those relationships. They didn't want to come in here and just tell us, yeah, we're here to plant trees and that's all we're going to do. They were very much on board with wanting to get involved in the community as a whole.
And having the community as a whole involved in the project.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to the project. I'm opposed to the process. And for me, I believe this is a business case. I have no idea what kind of time it may be of our administration. I have no idea, as much as we may get grant funding up to 100,000 or 100%, we may not. Are we committing dollars to it? If we're looking at Peace Hills Park, what portion of the park are we talking about? Are we talking about putting up trees where we currently have the Frisbee throwing golf thing? Like, to me, the concept is not the problem. It's the process. I think there's too many unanswered questions at this point in time. And a particular concern for me is just what you've raised. As much as it has an Indigenous component, that the piece of poetry that they read to me didn't speak to an Indigenous component. It spoke to a human component. And I think it's really important that somehow we incorporate the totality of our community along with the Indigenous component and make sure that we don't have competing interests in that. And I think that could be awkward too. I appreciate the work that's gone into it, but to me, there's simply too many unanswered questions at this point in time. And if we can have a full debate on where, when, how much time are we prepared to spend on it? Who's going to take the lead at the city? What portion of the park is going to be given up to a forest? Will there be other infrastructure needs there, like washrooms or so forth? If we can answer all those questions today, then I'd be prepared to vote on it today. But I think for me, there's just way too many unanswered questions. But again, I want to reiterate, it is not the intent of the project that I object to.
Councillor Blatz.
Absolutely. No, and I hear your concerns about it. Sue and I have already been in conversation about where we would be putting the trees, making sure that we're strategically placing them so that then they're not going to be going through the Frisbee golf course. Additionally, the reason why I brought this forward today as opposed to a business case is because, number one, we're not going to be approving any funds for this. Right now, it's just us approving them to go ahead and submit applications for grants on our behalf. If there was an outstanding amount, then they would have to come back to council and tell us that. And then we would have to start coming up with a game plan of fundraising, which they've already been taking the lead on wanting to do that consultation work for us. The reason why it's coming forward today is because the application is due for the 2 billion tree project if we want this done within the next year. And that's coming up in the middle of February, and that would be before our next meeting. And so that is why I brought it up today as opposed to it coming up during budget time. I wanted us to give them the chance to submit those grants.
And I appreciate all of that, but I still don't know what they're submitting for. Can we have $400,000 to be put into trees somewhere at Peace Hills Park and operated by somebody we haven't decided on yet? You know, and I appreciate the fact you've had a conversation with Sue about where they go, but I don't think council's had a conversation about where we think they should go.
No,
And I think this is a council decision.
Mhm. No, and when I said that, I didn't mean that I had a conversation with Sue where it goes. We just had a discussion that there's a disc frisbee course there. So we want to make sure that we're going around those. And additionally, the project is overseen by Project Forest, but it's a forest, so it's not going to be overseen by anyone past that point.
Councillor Aberle.
Through the chair to Councillor Glatz. Is it my understanding, am I correct in my understanding that the motion that we're working on today is giving Project Forest the opportunity, yes, to apply for funding, and I understand that, submit the application, but up until this point, because what I sort of got when he was presenting this afternoon is that they weren't able to even provide us some of the information that Councillor Nielsen was asking for because they wanted us to select the place.
Yes, and that's part of the problem is that they need to know how much land they're working with and if it's in different locations or if it's in one location. And then they can get quotes from the government on what the trees are going to cost and how much money they're getting for those trees.
And so they do need a decision from us before we meet again on February 14th,
yes.
Correct?
But only if we decide to do the project this year.
Councillor Billingsley.
I'm not opposed to the idea. Like Councillor Nielsen, the process is all wrong. We haven't even decided as a group if this is something that we want to do. Has what's the name of the company? Project Forest been vetted? Do we know anything about them? Is there other companies that do this type of work? What sort of staff involvement is there? All these questions, like we're just running into this, and because on the surface, it appears to be a really good idea. And below the surface, it might be a really good idea. But we're jumping in with both feet into the water without deciding whether or not this is a project as a council that we want to take on. So for that reason, I will not be in support of it.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All that's being asked is that we start the ball rolling. They're going to submit an application. It's up to us after they submit the application if we choose to reject the project. And that was said virtually today. So all we're doing is getting them started on this, on the road to maybe planting trees and maybe finding a location. But if we don't do it now, we have to wait at least another year. So there's no commitment whatsoever, except that we're committing to having them submit an application on our behalf, as they have done for other municipalities. Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
And I appreciate that. I think that what was proposed to council in the 20-minute presentation was one large piece of property, Peace Hills Park, or a number of small properties. And we've already gone from that 20-minute presentation to it should be held at Peace Hills Park without any discussion about how it could be incorporated into our community into smaller parcels, into segmented, where we bite off this much this year and move into a second parcel the year after. And I think those are important conversations to have before we make a decision. I'm not convinced that Peace Hills Park is necessarily the right place. I don't know what the other alternatives are, and I don't know what the other alternatives would even look like and how they would incorporate 10 hectares of land in smaller parcels, and whether you can actually piece it together over a 2 or 3 year period, biting off a little bit each time. And that's what I'm saying. I understand we're applying, but their biggest concern is, where do you want to put it? But we haven't had a conversation about what the benefits are to any one of 3 or 4 different locations, or whether there is even another 4th or 5th or 6th location where this might be a good place. I'll get off my soapbox.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. But we also have the option of amending the bylaw or amending this motion. So once the information comes back, we could amend the motion that says we give consent to fund to go to the Ashoro Park or Jubilee Park or By the Lake Park. We have that option. I don't think we're committing completely. Right now, we're saying for use of Peace Hills. But when the information comes back, maybe we change our mind on where the location is, or maybe after consultation with our friends from Musquechies, we change our mind. Thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
But we still haven't decided if this is a project that we want to go forward with. Like that discussion has never been had. So I think we were already saying we're going to do it, yet we didn't really say that we were going to do it. Right? Like we all agree it's a good idea, but that discussion hasn't been made yet. And yet we're going to give consent to this company to use Peace Hills Park, and none of that discussion's been made. Like I say, it just seems that, and I understand what you're saying is that it's just, but what happens if through our discussion that Peace Hills Park isn't the right location, and whether or not this is even something we want to do, or whether or not Project Forest is a company we want to do business with.
Councillor Blatz.
I just want to speak to where you said that we haven't had this discussion yet. That's the purpose of right now, is having that discussion of if we want this project to go forward. I put down the motion for it to be at Peace Hills Park because I feel very strongly that this would benefit our community. Going through the COVID-19 pandemic and going through many people using outdoor spaces as a way to help their mental health. And we saw how Peace Hills Park was heavily utilized during this time. Having more spaces that people can gather in our community and have a healthy healing space, I think is a huge benefit to our community. To me, this is an excellent project that kind of encompasses a lot of the things that we value in our city. We value community pride, we value climate action, and making sure that we're doing our best for reconciliation efforts. And so to me, this project would mean a lot to our community and our community members. And that's why I feel very strongly that it should be located within our community. And I would like to see this moving forward as well. We don't know if this project would be ever presented to us again if we decline it this year. We don't know if we do have that same opportunity next year. So that is why I feel strongly about doing this now.
But then shouldn't the motion talk about us approving the idea of a healing forest first? Then once that's decided, then the other, I mean, we've already assumed in this motion that we're doing a healing forest, but we never have discussed that yes, as a council, we want to do this, or no, as a council, we do not.
Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I don't disagree. So what if we took out the use of Peace Hills Park and just had that City Council gives consent to Project Forest to submit an application on our behalf for grants to fund the cost of Project Forest. So that way, when we get the information back regarding the grant, then at that time, we might make a decision as to whether we want to go forward or whether we don't want to go forward. And if we choose to go forward, where we would put it. So to me, if we just give consent for them to go ahead, that's all that they asked for, really. So, and then I think we would be okay.
Are you making?
I would move, I would make an amendment, Mr. Mayor, that we, Karen's confusing me now. Well, no, just that we give consent to Project Forest to submit an application on our behalf for grants to fund the cost of Project Forest, or whatever it's called. Thank you.
To the amendment, Councillor Blatz.
My only thing that I would friendly amend to that would be that we include 10 hectares somewhere in there, because I know that part of their application process is that they need to know the amount of land that they're using. And they really expressed to me that 10 hectares is the amount of land that they would like to use for it.
That wasn't in your original motion, though.
I'm just trying to find ways to, because my concern is that the reason why they need to know location is so that then they can submit an application. So I'm just concerned that if we take out which location we choose, that they won't be able to move forward with the application.
I think that was at the end of the slide too, on the points that they needed, and location was one of them. So I think taking that out, I think defeats the purpose of the motion. Councillor Billingsley.
I guess my question probably would be to Councillor Blatz. What do you know about the company Project Forest? They're not doing it for free. They're obviously making money somehow through all of this. They employ people. What do you know about them? And are there any other companies out there that do similar type of stuff? Or did you possibly investigate whether or not this could be done in-house?
I would not recommend doing it in-house, as that would be costing us a ton in staff time and hiring more staff in order to do a project of this scale. So that was something that I didn't want to explore, is trying to get our administration more involved in a project of this size. Project Forest has a really good reputation. They work with our federal government on the 2 billion tree project, and they have worked with several municipalities already. They just started a year and a half ago. And so they've already been on board with a few different other municipalities in creating these types of forests and reforestation projects, as well as Tree Time. That's their partner. And there's a crossover between the two companies, and they work on reforestation as well, and they have a very good reputation.
But do you know, like, do they charge an admin charge? Like how?
I never asked them
Like
how they pay people.
How are they getting paid in all of this? If we get a grant for $50,000,
So they are.
where's their cut?
So they're in partnership with the federal government right now to be delivering these services, but I've never ventured into asking them how they make money.
Does it come off the top of our grant?
I have no idea.
Yeah, see, I can't read too many questions.
To the amendment of taking Peace Hills out of the motion. Councillor Nielsen.
Wow, I don't. Taking Peace Hills out of the equation. Taking Peace Hills out of the equation doesn't change my position. One of the questions that was posed today at council is, what homework have you done? What options have you explored? What are the misappropriation of funds, so all that kind of jargon was thrown at us. And if we were sitting here a year from now and someone said, what kind of homework and research have you done on this project? We would say, we had a 15-minute presentation, we didn't examine.
To the amendment of taking P cells out of.
I don't think it
motion.
changes anything.
Thank you. Councillor Aberle.
I just have a question because to make sure I'm clear, voting on this amendment for or against, I don't understand how that will, if this passes, then do we still vote on the
Go back to
original
yeah.
amendment? Thank you.
Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? It's not coming up. Nope. No, it's the old, it's the original. Without the name in it. We'll just do it manually then.
To council, the amended motion is on your screen.
Can you pull my vote, please? I thought we were voting on.
This is still to the
Thank
amendment,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Nielsen, for or against?
I would vote for this motion.
To take the name out of. Right now, the question for the motion is to the amendment of taking Peace Hills out of the motion on the floor. We're voting to the amendment, not the motion.
Yes, I would vote for this motion.
Okay, so the motion now on the floor is that council gives consent to Project Forest to submit an application on our behalf for grants to fund the cost of the Project Forest. Discussion. One of the things that they had asked us for was a location, so I'm not sure how they can submit an application for this application without a location. Councillor Aberle.
Yeah, so that was my question and I may be confused. So we're coming back to Peace Hills Park as the location, which is.
Nope. So the amendment passed.
Yeah, then
sorry,
then I misunderstood.
That's okay. Then would your vote have changed?
I would have voted differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tied vote, then okay, we'll recall the question then.
I apologize.
That's okay. We'll recall the question then. So to the amendment of taking Peace Hills Park out of the application. It does, but it reads as the motion. That's the problem, is it reads as the motion, not just the amendment. So we'll have
Yeah,
to do it manually then. So the amendment is taking Peace Hills out of the application. So instead of like where it says move, can it say amendment and then move that Peace Hills Park is taking out of the application? I don't know if that, like if that holds true with minutes or not. Okay. Okay, we good on that? Any more discussion on the amendment? Everybody knows what we're trying to accomplish? Okay, those in favor?
I don't have it. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, now it's come up on there. Councillor Nielsen, are you for or?
I am
against?
for,
For.
and I'm sorry it did not come up on my screen.
That's okay. So we have a
Now it
tied,
came up on my screen.
tied vote. It is lost. So the original motion stands. Yes. Any further discussion? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. It's a good thing that iCompass is making our life easier. One of the, sorry, that was it for 16B. New and unfinished business, just in regards to some of the conversation and claims that were made during the public hearing. I'm just wanting to know if what we can do in terms of, or if there's an appetite for administration to follow through on some of the claims that were made during that public hearing.
Through the mayor to council, administration could do up an FAQ. We could review the video, look at the comments that were made, go through all the submissions, and then answer every one of the questions and post that onto our website and communicate that out to the public. Probably take us about a week to get that done, so it would be up for a couple of weeks prior to the public hearing, or sorry, the hearing where the resolution to stand up the MCC would be made.
We would, if council so chooses to make that motion. Yeah. Councillor Billingsley.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that City Council directs administration to answer as many questions as possible that were provided through the, what do we call that?
Public hearing.
Public hearing on the MCC.
Can I add a friendly?
That in regards to the MCC.
Yeah, just as a friendly to include the email submissions that we received as well.
Okay, and it's got to be specific to the MCC.
Correct.
Things that were brought up that weren't pertaining to the MCC. That's for a different time, a different venue. This was a discussion of the MCC.
Sue?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, so any of the questions about the project itself not answered, or the MCC and the project? But nothing to do with taxes or any of those other
Yes,
pieces?
that's where I'm going with that. And project, I
Okay.
guess, would be a good way to.
Some of what was discussed during the presentations painted a picture that I think should be either substantiated or qualified, or if there's a thought that council and administration are hiding things, and then individuals can come and make all types of claims, and we don't address that, I think that continues the perception that council has something to hide. So I think
And I'm
that
not disagreeing with you on that,
Yeah.
on that point. But the whole idea of what the public hearing was about was the MCC and the project. And I just want to address those concerns because that's what the meeting was for. Now, whether certain individuals decided to throw other stuff out there, to me, that could be addressed, but I don't think it needs to be addressed under this motion. I think that we're talking about the MCC and or the treatment plant. That's what we've got to deal with at this point. And not saying going further along in the next 60 days that we don't deal with those other questions as well, but I specifically, this was what that meeting was about.
Okay. Councillor Nielsen.
I know that the way this motion is written. So we're answering as many questions and we're including email submissions. Or are we answering as many questions that came up through the public hearing and the email submissions? Like, I don't know what include email submission means as we answer questions. Are we sending out the email submissions for everybody to see?
No, my amendment or friendly amendment was to include the email submissions that we received in terms of the MCC or the project.
To answer questions on them.
To answer the questions that were posed through that channel.
So we're going to ask administration to answer as many questions that were posed through email submissions and the public hearing.
Correct.
So we're not including them, we're answering the questions posed by them.
Yes.
Sir.
I'll say that for the mic. Could administration please request 5 minutes to work on a motion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was thinking of the word relevant in when we're talking about questions. And I don't know who determines what's relevant, but some of them were.
I think anything that was asked regarding the MCC or the project would be relevant.
Okay. The other thing is, and I know administration is working on this, but what about the innuendos and the false information that was shared at that chair?
And that's what Councillor Billingsley was discussing, that right now, the focus is the MCC and the project, and that if we wanted to revisit that and get administration to answer those questions as well, or correct any of the misinformation, that could be a follow-up motion once this is done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, while they're talking, can I ask a question? When
Is that motion okay, Councillor Billingsley?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Ready for the question? Oh, will you change the motion that's up on the screen now isn't the same. Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Just Counselor Blatz this time.
It's frozen. Hold on. There we go.
Perfect. Carried unanimously. Counselor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if there was, I'm going to move that we also clarify any false information that may have been shared and it be corrected so that the public is aware of what really happened.
I'll just help.
Clarify any false information or claims. That arose during the public hearing. Thank you.
Moved by Counselor Elliott. Counselor Billingsley.
So does that mean if there was true claims, then we will ignore them? Because you're just saying what, if it's just false information, we'll address it, but if it's true information, we're going to ignore it.
No, I didn't really mean it that way. Help me with wording then.
Well, I think that any claims, period, to be answered.
Remove the word false. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So if a question said that we spent $8 million that was supposed to go there and it was spent somewhere else, and this would be clarified that the money wasn't spent, or the money is in reserve, or something like that.
Or it was spent.
Or it was spent.
Or it was spent, yes, of course. No, we have to be honest.
Yep. Anything further? Oh, let's have a date on that, sorry.
Oh, boy. I don't want to, we can't stretch our administration that far. I guess we would like it prior to the 14th, but I think we need to have a few days for people to digest it too. If we're going to bring this back on the 14th about the.
But you're looking for information that could very well be out, or it is, because Councillor Billingsley's motion covers the MCC and the project. This covers anything else. So I don't think that that's relevant to come back before that meeting.
Okay, I can go along with that. Thank you. So for March 31st, Sue, is that too fast?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, that should be fine.
Do you want to present it at a council meeting or?
Yes.
Okay, so the 28th. Oh, sorry.
Just because of our, sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Elliott, because of our timelines that we have for putting the agenda out for administration to get the work done, could I request that it go to the April 11th? Or if that's the Easter, the April 12th meeting, I just have to double check.
Sure, I will accept that.
Okay.
Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair, I guess. Councillor Elliott. So would you see it as a long list of statements, claims, whatever you want, information? This one was accurate. This one is inaccurate for these reasons. This one was accurate. This one was accurate. This one was inaccurate. And a page listing.
It's through the mayor to Councillor Nielsen. I would see it, yes, in bullet form. True, false, and then just have bullets beside the questions or the statements. So make it easy reading, not paragraphs, so people get.
But if we're claiming something was false, don't we have to give evidence why it wasn't true?
Yes,
Okay,
we're answering the questions.
thank you.
That's the way I see it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Councillor Nielsen.
I voted. I've got my own, I'm the only one on this list. Oh, I've been included with the rest of the group. I thank you. for
Yep,
that.
you're there. Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Related to this, I'm just wondering, has this contract been overseen by a lawyer that we're talking about?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, several lawyers
Pardon?
several lawyers have looked at everything that's been presented to date. We have a lawyer representing the city. We have a lawyer representing the other firms. We have a lawyer representing the consortium together. So we've had several lawyers look at these
And
agreements.
we've seen the recommendations, or they just appear in the contract with Aquaterra?
I'm not sure. The lawyers are just looking at the legalities of the contracts. The city and Aquaterra are reviewing the operating agreement. And then the city and Graham are reviewing the construction contract. And lawyers are involved in each of those as well.
And then do we get replies, recommendations from the lawyers? Do we get information back from the lawyers?
They don't care about our operations. They just care about a legally binding agreement.
So have we got a recommendation back from them that this is an okay agreement?
They would never give us a recommendation of that. We've talked, our accountants have looked through the numbers. They give recommendations on whether or not it's feasible.
I'm just wondering do we have a fallback position that was said earlier? Are we making decisions based on all the information that we have? So how are we certain that everything that we have received has been looked at through the lens of our legal counsel?
All the documents have been reviewed by lawyers.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blatz.
I move to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. And before we do that, and I didn't want to do this at the beginning of the meeting, I just wanted to recognize and maybe have a moment of silence for Alan Harris. Short time with the city and definitely had a huge impact on our operations, staff, whether you knew him for a long time or you just had the opportunity to meet him recently, definitely had a huge impact. So we'll just take a moment. Our thoughts are definitely with this family. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Oops, I moved it.
Joe did that.
Thanks, everyone.
So